You've played your last game, you had your last training session, and you went out with the whole team to end the season on the right note. Now what? You have two options. You can either take that time entirely off, enjoy your vacations, and get back to preseason like absolute shit, needing 4 to 8 weeks to just get to keep up with the rest, or you lay out a plan, take advantage of the best opportunity you have all season long to work on yourself and attack this offseason properly in order to get into the new season flying. Well, since you're here watching this video, I assume you belong to the latter group, so let me share my off-season framework with you and let's set you up properly to make this off-season a transformational one for you. So I wanted to start this video off with something essential: recovery. I know I just told you should work your ass off in the summer, but it would be silly to take no days off during the whole year and expect to stay injury and stress-free. So during the whole year, not season, I like to strategically implement 1 or 2 weeks where you take time completely off the game, recharge your batteries on a physical and mental level, and just enjoy life in general. This can be done any time of the year, but for most, the off-season is the most convenient time of the year to take these 1 or 2 weeks off, as the season is crowded with team and game commitments. Now, based on the time frame you have available, you can either spend a couple of days off or take a full 2-week break if you're like 2 to 3 months away from preseason. During that time, I would highly suggest you disconnect completely from the game and just enjoy life in a human manner. Now, what happens after that off period is you start getting that training consistency back into your life in a progressive manner. Every player is different, but as a rule of thumb, it would be good to shoot for 5 to 8 training sessions per week, without that meaning, of course, that you can't go above or below those numbers. That's just a general target zone you can shoot for, no matter what your level of play is. Now, the billion-dollar question: what should you focus on this offseason? The way I would go about this is simple. Break down your game into your strengths and weaknesses, and then create a plan that heavily addresses your weaknesses and polishes your strengths. The reason I like to adopt that approach is because A, if those strengths of yours were enough, you would have already gotten the results you desire, and B, those weaknesses are typically the ones keeping you back from unlocking your next level, as well as the so-called lowest hanging fruits of your game, which means that you can get some really decent results by putting in even average efforts because that specific area is underdeveloped. At the same time, I do not think you should eliminate those strong areas of your game from the training process, but rather alter the focus or ratio of use of each training stimulus. So for example, if a really fast player comes to me for training, most would expect I would eliminate sprinting from the training equation, but that's not the case, since we would use top speed running and various cutting, turning, and acceleration variations to A, maintain hamstring health and mitigate injury risk, and B, try to reach those top speeds faster, which better translates to the demands of the game. And the same could happen with a technically gifted player, where we wouldn't necessarily eliminate the ball completely from training. We would just make sure to target skill and refine his or her problem-solving abilities on the ball, instead of putting that player over a bunch of unnecessary ball mastery and repetitive drills. And to be honest, guys, the offseason is the time of the year where the 80-20 rule has perfect application. So dedicate 80% of your energy and time to master your weaknesses and 20% of your time and energy into refining your strengths. No matter what you decide or need to focus on though, there are some general guidelines and principles you can follow to better structure your off-season training. As a general rule, it would probably be better to build your base first by targeting training volume and not so much intensity, and then progressively start ramping up that intensity as you're getting closer to preseason, while training volume is decreasing. This will allow you to build that much needed tissue tolerance and general strength first, which will then enable you to increase intensity later on in the off-season more safely. Now, in terms of structuring an off-season training week, we like to keep it pretty straightforward, meaning that sessions that require higher intensity and physical outputs are placed after lower intensity days. That cycle allows us to target a physical or technical quality 2 or even 3 times per week if needed, instead of 1, without worrying that much about how fatigued you are, since this structure typically takes care of that. This is done so that you can perform those high intent actions as fresh as possible without fatigue getting in your way. So I know that some of you guys might be confused right now, but let me make this whole video simple for you. Let's say you want to train 6 times per week this summer. All you gotta do is break down your game, find your strengths and weaknesses, decide how much time or how many sessions you want to invest into each training quality, and then you just gotta take action and refine the process along the way. I would also highly suggest you check out the free off-season training week. You can find linked below to get a better idea of how we structure things S&C wise, but also do not forget to check out this video where I go over how to perfectly structure a technical skill session to finally upgrade your skill this summer and not just your technique.